confluence, so heading up that way next. But I know some of you are probably just dying to see what one of these resupply points look like. And I'll give you a satisfaction this time. There it is. I don't want to endorse LaCroix or anything, but if a pallet happened to show up at my house, I wouldn't complain. Following this canyon up to what's known as the Highland Ridge, with a few impressive summits on it, leading to the highest summits of the range ultimately. Back in the park now, it seems, under the authority of this sign. A weather station. Got Bluebird ahead. And perhaps nuclear holocaust to the south. Hard to say with all the problems in the world. Las Vegas could just be one cloud of smoke right now. Good thing about a dry year, only good thing really, considering how drought-stricken the land is that there's a paucity of biting insects. I've seen 0 mosquitoes, very few smaller biting black flies, although there's a couple. You'd expect there to be some mosquitoes here in July in this wet aspen forest, but it's not wet this year. There's no water running in the gulch. There's no mosquitoes. Some bigger individuals of Frasera speciosa, this aspen forest at least. There's the flowers, 4-parted. Most gentians are 5-parted, but not Frasera. Look at the nectaries in towards the bottom of the petals there. Those fringes. Look how spotted they are too, the petals. What up, guys? Sampling some of that nectar? Why not? Look at you go. Got a white more for the Colorado columbine here. Randomly, I haven't seen any other Aquilegia cerulea this entire woodland. So that's a pleasant find. It's topped out here onto that ridge. It's just up there. It's a little snow pile on that nook up there. Just remarking to myself though that it's highly unlikely we're going to see the Petrophytum blooming this year. I guess they only come out in good precip years, which makes sense if you're obligated to live in rock cracks and whatnot. They ain't doing nothing. Not high, not low. But they are on this limestone. That stays true. Periodically refortify that shoe there with more pitch. It starts getting flappy. Plenty of pitch to be had in these parts, though, whether it's the bristlecones, the white barks, or the pinions. Even found some on some Doug firs yesterday that I made use of. A little concerned about this next stretch since it is a ridgeline that's pretty dry. This year at least. Tends not to be ever flowing water on ridgelines. Once in a great while you'll come across a little depression or something with some water where spring starts. But anyway, it's not so dry of a year that there isn't a couple little snow piles, even below 11,500 feet up there. So I have no worries that by the time I'm at 12, 13, I'll be seeing snow piles along my path and can therefore survive the next stretch. That beautiful sight up there gives me permission to drink up. Also gives me hope we're going to see more in bloom than I thought we would. And we got some special primulas here, but they're all toast. Looks like. Maybe higher up. There's the crest. Mounts Lincoln and Washington before me. And then the Wheeler Massif at the heart of it all. Our friend Mount Moriah there, far in the distance. And there's all the various slopes and ridges I had to climb over. Canyons, climbing up and down to attain the south end of this range. It wasn't easy. Now I'm here and simply looking to enjoy the ridge. Can't help thinking at night sometimes days you'll be on the high part of the ridge are the days that the clouds will come in. I'm wrong about that fear so far. It's another good day. Fairly hazy to the south still. Kind of hazy all around, but it is brown like August up here. Even though it's only early July. Not to say it's all death and destruction and drought up here. Potentillas, phlox, eriogonums, tiny trifoliums. Certain things are doing okay. Is that cushion buckwheat? Not sure what it's called at the moment. I'll find out when I get home. There's no cell service up here. Here's Mount Lincoln. Not sure why it's named after someone who never visited Nevada. So it goes. Deep, deep gorges dropping off to the east. South tip of the range that way. Rural farming communities at the base on the west. And the future ahead to the north. Came into a patch of primula, Perrii. They're looking pretty ratty, but a few of them are in flower. The petals aren't looking too good. They are a bit splotched with a lack of pigment. There's a couple more flowering over there. Should have 5 petals, but we got some kind of mutation going on here. Anyway, here's how they look ratty. dead along the edges, lacking pigment, etc. Here's one on the same plant with 5 petals, and that's the predominant condition, I'd say. We'll see a boreal spruce forest on this ridge. Some bristlecones here and there, but it's mostly Picea engelmannii. These things like late holding snow, so I'm sure they're a little stressed this year. Here's a bristlecone. Maybe they're more on the south faces. That would make sense. It's probably the coolest day so far of the trek. In case you have lost track, as I happen to do sometimes, it's afternoon of day 6. Mount Washington's right ahead. It's cool enough that I've thought about putting on pants and long sleeves a couple times, especially when it's breezy and I'm above the trees. Definitely been putting on a longer shirt during rest breaks. Ultimately, it's still quite warm, all things considered. Might change my mind by the time I'm above 12,000 feet. We'll see. Mount Washington, of course, named after a guy who predates Lewis and Clark, therefore had no idea what Nevada is or was. Just kind of ridiculous. Maybe add some more Shoshone and Paiute names once in a while. Because Washington and Lincoln, as revered as they are, have nothing to do with this place. There's a lot of other mountains named after them. How about the pinnacle of New Hampshire, for example? How about Mount Lincoln in Colorado? I mean, just a little bit ridiculous, in my opinion. And into some true bristlecone habitat here. Dry, exposed, high ledges and slopes. I think some of the oldest ones on Earth actually live in the park here. Maybe we'll walk by some of those groves. Maybe not. I don't know exactly where they are. I think they are on north slopes and ridges of this peak in front of us, though, Washington. So we may or may not run into them. So some of the oldest organisms on Earth are living in this park, is another way to say that. So we get the oldest, longest lived species and some of the longest lived individuals of that species here right now. Washington Summit straight ahead. Lincoln in the background. On Washington now. Looking southwards, of course, towards the range beginning. Steep drop-offs all around. And I'm following that ridge, which is quite beautiful, to the high point there. That's Wheeler ahead. Wheeler Massive. It's not really one summit, is it? It's a big block. It reaches just above 13,000 feet. A simple life down in those valleys. It's quite tempting sometimes. Some columbines and primulas hiding out in this little cavern. I have not been graced by the shadow of a cloud once over the past 6 days. And it appears as today will be no exception. There's a person up on that slope ahead. First person in 2 days. The slope I just came down looks rather impossible from this vantage point, but it's just fine up close. There's a person right there with a tripod, long clothing, day pack. slicker. Very sorry, it's so yellow and brown everywhere. I was hoping for the best, but I'm stuck with the drought. Some ribes can survive up here in these winds. Some persicodes can survive in these winds. So I grew up on the coast of Massachusetts, and the dikes there resemble talus fields in terms of big blocky rocks that are difficult to walk across. I have a hypothesis that wandering across those dikes as a child, in part, made me the great mountaineer I am today. So the Alpine Tundra is characterized by strong winds and cold temperatures. I'm still wearing shorts and short sleeves. It's rather warm hiking uphill in the full sun in the middle of July, but come January, this place will be brutal windswept landscape, basically lifeless, maybe a couple birds, mammals basically all hibernating, and so on. This is an iconic species. You know you're in the tundra when you see this species. It's Gaium rossii and the rosaceae. It's almost so common in the southern Rockies that it's dull to run into. But of course it's a little bit more special here because it's telling us we're in a tundra climate. I've seen this thing in the rubies in Nevada, but otherwise it's pretty rare in Nevada. Got the numerous stamens. Representative of the rosaceae. 5 sepals and petals, only the petals visible here. There's the sepals. The leaves are deeply pinnatified. Let's see if we can see that. There we go. That's what the leaves look like. Deeply pinnatified. There are a few lakes here, and there's one of them. I believe that's Johnson. Doesn't look very inviting, but it's unique nonetheless in these parts. Patch of Silene acaulis right here, but it's really not flowering. There's just one pathetic blossom right there. Another indicator species of the tundra, more or less, and more common in the southern Rockies. Rare and special here. Things have slowed down a little bit with this rocky, narrow ridge, but it's about to open up again. It's about to make that more or less final ascent with a few dips along the way, I'm sure. I believe, given all that sun left, that I should just try to go over the top, because a peak like that presents some camping difficulties. You got to either camp on this side or the other side. I mean, it's going to be big rocky blocks up there. Dike blocks are actually more like this. grass patches once in a while. That's not big enough to camp on though. You can find them big enough to camp on once in a great while. That's a lucky find. Never been desperate enough to try to camp on something like this. It simply doesn't work. You spend the night awake. I spend the night awake on even the slightest of slopes, never mind throwing a bunch of blocks. So be walking after dark if necessary, and forever long as necessary. So that's the Big Deal Baker Lake everyone hikes to. What a blast. People do anything to hike to an alpine lake, even if it looks like total crap. I don't understand it sometimes. The lake is the big destination. Whatever, at least they're getting outside, I guess. The ridge has turned into a series of chopped up pinnacles, significantly slowing me down for the time being. So a Janella up here above tree line. It's a spore producing plant only. This lineage evolved before even ferns appeared on the planet. And here they are hanging on at the top of Nevada. Situation's all about trial and error. So I'm gonna try this pinnacle, see if it leads further, or else I have to go down and around it. Seems to have worked. It's widening out a little bit, but there are quite a few pinnacles still, mostly aloof and kind of forming the edge of the cliff. Hoping I'll run into many more pinnacles that don't go. So I'm not gonna make it there before dark. Not much to see up here. The views would have been nice. In terms of plants, it's all blocky talus. Exceptional views to the south, though. Still not really anywhere to camp, so still committed. If you want to see it up there, you'll just have to go up there yourself someday, I suppose. Ammonium viscosum, one of the only things thriving up here. 12,000 feet. Dry taluses. It's not even too far away. It's just a slog up that slope, up that talus slope. Need to stop at that snow patch along the way too and fill up. Like that drop? Bit of snow lower down there, huh? Look at all that lime green lichen coating the entire north faces. Temperature cools down precipitously after sunset on the tundra. Just put on a coat for the first time on this entire trip while walking. The gloves aren't far behind. They're arriving here at 9:45 last night. I decided to spend the night in the windbreak on Wheeler Peak, highest point fully within Nevada. People are gonna start showing up soon, so I'm packing up, but just noticing that we're already starting with some cloud buildup, so we have the greatest chance of rain yet today, I'd say. Does look like some monsoonal moisture's building up. See if I'm right about that. It won't be way up here when it happens, so be in a warmer, lower place either way, out in that direction. There's our friend Mount Moriah, of course. ton of primula up here. Pretty much just this, phlox, and polemonium inhabiting the taluses. Here's the Wheeler block from the north. Next summit is Baldy there. The ridge goes lower and lower to Sacramento Pass, and then climbs higher up again just west of Mariah there. It's almost normal flowering amount in these parts. Ian Rossii, Fox Condensata, compact potentilla, polemonium. Must have been late snow, must have been good snow. Good enough for them to at least sprout and bloom. So it appears as though the higher elevations have the most normal bloom this year. It's not really normal, it should be a lot more lush than that, I would say. If there had been 100% adequate snowpack, it's definitely better than what we were seeing on Mariah and such. At minimum, I've been getting good pictures of plants I haven't photographed before. That's what this is all about, really. It's all about the guide. The videos are just a little bit of fun along the way. Floppy mouth situation is getting worse and worse. It's really becoming a pain in the butt to walk with. Hopefully there's some pitch up ahead. We got spruce zone right here. They don't really produce pitch, to speak of at least. So I need to get to those bristle cones and pitch up. Do have an extra pair of shoes at Sacramento Pass there. I don't think they're in that much greater condition, but I put them there for a reason. Pretty sure Baldy here is the last time I'm going to be above 11,000 feet on this trip. So it's going to get a little warmer again. We'll see what happens with the clouds and storms and such, though. We may have some reprieve from the heat lower down. Farewell to the park. Got to say, the sustained talus, never enjoyable, and less so with a floppy-mouthed shoe. So I'm looking forward to those smoother and gentler ridges ahead now, even with an increase in temperature concomitantly with the decrease in elevation. Bring it on. About to be released into freedom from the talus, and therefore also I'm about to leave the Alpine for this trip.